Hi friends, welcome back. In today's video, I am going to explain the poem Sympathy, composed by Charles Mackay, who was a Scottish poet, journalist and novelist. So this is how the poem starts. I lay in sorrow, deep distressed, my grief a proud man heard. His looks were cold, he gave me gold, but not a kindly word. My sorrow past, I paid him back the gold he gave to me, then stood erect and spoke my thanks and blessed his charity. So there are a lot of alliteration here. I'll come to that later, and then we also have an example of personification here. Charity is being personified, but first I'll explain the poem. I lay in sorrow deep distressed. So the poet says that he was feeling sad. He was deeply distressed. He was very anxious. My grief a proud man heard, and the sadness that he had, somebody noticed it. And who noticed it? A man who was proud and arrogant. This man heard his grief. His looks were cold. He gave me gold. So this man, being proud, he offered help. He gave him gold, but still his looks were cold, but not a kindly word. And he did not offer even a single word of kindness. There was no sympathy in him. However, he gave him gold. My sorrow passed, and when my bad times were over, the narrator says that when my bad times were gone, I paid him back. When I got money in my life, when I started earning enough, I went back to the man who had given me gold. The gold he gave to me, I gave him back. I returned the gold that he had given me, then stood erect and spoke my thanks and blessed his charity. And I stood before him in a dignified way, and I expressed my gratitude to him for having helped me and blessed his charity. That means I thanked him for his charitable nature. Now charity is being personified here. Charity is being described as a human being, especially as a woman. And there are examples of alliteration here. The poet uses a lot of alliteration in order to make the poem more musical. So deep distressed, the first letters DD, they create this musical effect, and that is called alliteration. Deep distressed, they are close to each other. Deep distressed. Then we have past paid, and another example of alliteration. Then again in this line, gold gave. This is another example of alliteration. And then finally here also we have alliteration. Stood and spoke. Stood, spoke. So these are examples of alliteration. I lay in want, in grief and pain. A poor man passed my way. He bound my head, he gave me bread. He watched me night and day. How shall I pay him back again for all he did to me? Oh, gold is great, but greater far is heavenly sympathy. Now, these lines are very meaningful. Now, the narrator says that after his bad times were over, and when he was facing good times, he went back to the man, to the proud man, and he had returned the gold that he had got. And then again there came another phase in his life when he felt he was needy and he was sad and he was in pain. Now at that time there was no rich man, there was no proud man who passed him by. In fact, instead there was a poor man who passed his way. A poor man passed my way. He bound my head. That is, when he saw that when he saw the narrator and discovered that he was probably wounded or injured, he tried to take care of him, and he bound his head and gave me bread and gave him food and watched me night and day and took care of him all through the night and all through the day, for days at a stretch. How shall I pay him back again? Now, this is the big question. The narrator says that how am I supposed to pay back to a man who did not give me money, who did not give me gold, but helped me with his kindness? He helped me by taking care of me physically, and he gave me some healing touch. How shall I pay him back again for all he did to me? Oh, gold is great. That means it is true that gold has value. But greater far is heavenly sympathy. That sympathy, the sense of compassion that men have for others, the sense of fellow feeling and brotherhood, that sense of kindness, this is something more precious than gold. And this comes only from people who have a spiritual being inside them, people who are heavenly in nature, people who are noble. Only such people are sympathetic, and it is very difficult to repay the kindness that we get from sympathetic people. This is what the poet is trying to convey. So here also we have more examples of alliteration. In the second line, poor, past, examples of alliteration. Bound, bread, again more examples of alliteration. Then further we have gold, great, greater. All these words starting with the letter G. These are examples of alliteration. They create a very nice musical effect. And then lastly we have a personification. Sympathy is again described as a human being, probably as a woman, and some like sympathy, charity, these are given in capital. They are being personified because these are very important things, very important needs. So, and then there is another very important thing the poet is trying to convey, is that charity is important, but then sympathy is more important. A person may be charitable, but he may not be kind. But a person who is sympathetic, his kindness, his nobility is far more precious because it cannot be repaid, it cannot be returned. With these words, I come to the end of the explanation. I do hope that you have understood the poem. Thank you so much. Bye.